Great, thank you. Well, welcome everybody. Really glad we're providing this time for you to hear about the bills that's separate from Quaker Lobby Day. And I really appreciate our working group clerks being with us this morning to do a short version of the briefing. And then if there's anybody in your delegations that you know of that is going to miss both this morning and Thursday morning, Gabby is going to be preparing this as a video that we can post on the information page for Quaker Lobby Day. Yeah, welcome, welcome. Glad to see people coming in. What we're going to do here is give 15 minutes to each working group to present their 3 priority bills and to take some questions from you. And we're going to start with the economic justice priorities, in part because Verna, who's clerk of another meeting, needs to be over there at 10 o'clock Pacific. So any questions before we start? All right, then Verna, please go ahead.
Good morning, friends. Thank you so much for joining us. And actually, I am finished with my term as clerk of Tacoma Friends Meeting. That's somebody else gets to do that now. I've got a few other irons in the fire though, right? So economic justice is a kind of a vague and very broad category. And the way we have decided on our issues from session to session is what's important to the people that are really involved in the group, because we really can't take on everything. And then we also identify allies that are interested in some of the broader strokes. And then we have our 3 priorities, and then we'll have a longer list of issues that we support so that we may not be closely following those ourselves. But if another ally group is really supporting something and they need more people to sign on, we've already predetermined, yes, we support some of those other issues. So that's part of how we get some collaboration going with other like-minded groups, and also how we broaden our effectiveness. So the 3 priorities that we chose were, and I'm switching back and forth between things I'm looking at, are a housing bill, which is paired with a Senate bill that has to do with rent security. One of the biggest causes of homelessness is people get priced out of their rental homes. That's a big deal. Housing Bill 2114 and Senate Bill 5961 are companion bills that address this issue. So this particular priority for us is already in appropriation. It is pedaling fast. We hopefully it has legs. So we have high hopes for this one. Just to quickly move through the other couple ones. And you'll notice that this one I'm saying has legs. In other words, we expect motion in this session, hopefully positive motion for it. The next couple of issues that we have aren't really in that category. We're bringing them forward as priority issues because some things take a long time for that seed to grow and for it to become something that's relevant to the broader audience. And one of those is called Guaranteed Basic Income. Representative Liz Berry brought this forward in the last session. There have been pilot studies, including in the city of Tacoma, where I live, that demonstrate that if you give a targeted population, so we're not at the point of saying universal, but a targeted population, discretionary funds on a monthly basis, they can go, I need this $500 for car repair so I can get to work, a hospital bill, my kid's school clothes. They have discretion. It's not dictated to them. You have to buy this item and this brand of this item. That helps these people get out of that really tight, impoverished, desperate, do I pay my rent or do I buy groceries kind of situation. So that's the idea, the concept behind Guaranteed Basic Income. We are supporting a bill on this. It's House Bill 1045. It made it to appropriations. It had a public hearing. There were over 1,300 people across the state that signed in pro and said, yeah, we think this is a good idea. And we think so strongly enough that we actually got on the computer and signed in pro. So, of course, there's a lot more that didn't take that step. But we don't really expect it to pass this year. We're still gathering momentum on this bill. Another bill that was supporting is in kind of a similar vein. This is called Developing the Washington Health Trust. And that is funds that would provide universal health care, a baseline of universal health care funding for the citizens, for the people of Washington State. And that bill is Senate Bill 5335. 5335. Sadly, that one's kind of dead in the water, but we still support it strongly because it's an important issue. If you think about some of the other things that we've had to fight for over the years for a long time, we don't fight because we expect to win in this session. We fight because we know that it's an important issue. So those are our three big priority issues. We are supporting other issues on broader housing justice things and also on broader economic justice things as far as safety net things. And there are ally groups that we work with that help support those. Are there any questions in the group? Okay, Susan, I'm happy to hand back off to you.
Wow. Oh, wait a minute. Louise has a question.
Hi, Louise.
My question is, particularly with this last bill, as well as the basic income, if our representatives, is it really important to find out where they do stand on those particular items so that so we would bring them up even though we know that they're not going to happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. We are doing the work that will make it more relevant. And the way we make it more relevant to our representatives and senators is by our voice being heard by those over 1,300 people that signed in pro. That makes them sit up and take notice. Pardon me. Emails to your district representative and senator are absolutely very important and helpful for these bills.
Thanks.
Yeah, you're actually going to hear this in relation to several of our bills, which we are pretty sure, especially here in the second session of the term and the short session, probably aren't going to become law this year, but we're putting them as a priority in order to have those conversations with our representatives. So definitely don't take anything that anybody says about probability of passing as meaning that it's less important to talk to your representatives about the bill and then the issue that lies behind the bill. You will be hearing some others of those as well. And Verna, do you have some information sheets available in the economic justice section of our website about these bills?
That was a lead-on question. Yes, we do have information sheets available. So if you go to Quaker Voice website, and each one of the working groups have got a page on that. And in ours, our three priorities are listed. And embedded in there is a link that says, look here for more information. So you can easily go on from that information page to where the bill is and read documents that are related to it. There's also videos from when there's a public hearing or a committee hearing. There, if you scroll down on the ledge.wa.gov page, you can get as much information just about as you could ever want to know about any of the bills that any of us are presenting. And our information sheets are on those pages. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Verna. I'm am out pulling up the link to the priorities sheet that actually has all of the bills and a little description listed that's very short, but for a lot of them, we have more information available in the working group sections of the website. Okay. Renee, you're out there. Are you out there in a library? Where is Renee? Okay, Sam, do you want to talk about criminal justice?
Sure. Um, I'm Sam Merrill, clerk of the Criminal Justice Working Group, and our working group has developed 3 priority issues for this legislative session, and they arise from issue areas, one of which is police traffic interaction. The second is release and reentry. And the third, humane treatment of persons who are in prison. And out of our various bills, the intention is that they reflect our mission of bringing fringe testimonies to decision-making in the state legislature. And they express, as has been mentioned before, what Verna was saying, these represent long-term goals in many cases, not necessarily something that we expect to pass this particular year. And I'll go through 3 of these, the 3 that we have for priorities. The first is called traffic safety for all. And if you have your are connected to computer. Oh, right. If you have your list from that was sent out to persons who are registered, you'll have it. I'm also putting it up on the screen here. And if I could make this a little larger, that would be good. But I'm not sure how to do that offhand. I had another one here that I can do. Let's see if I can do that.
Sammy, there's a plus sign and a circle towards the top of the document.
Okay.
Just click on that.
Okay. Aha, got it. Thank you. I knew that at one time, but I'd forgotten it. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, there we are. The first one is traffic safety for all. And as you may know, there's a traditional practice by police to have frequent traffic stops. These are often in communities of color. And as we know too well, they lead to criminal entanglements in too many cases. And so this bill reflects the idea that this should be that traffic stops should be done when they really involve serious safety concerns, such as drunk driving, and not for broken taillights. And the effort has been started successfully in the Redmond area and in other areas to restrict the traffic stops to just the ones that really involve safety. And the bill would have grant money that would help persons who are unable to pay, and it would help them with fixing these low-level infractions. The bill has gotten some support from the AAA, which is good that it's not just from groups such as ours. But at the same time, as you might expect, there is substantial pushback from police who have, so to speak, cut their teeth on doing this kind of stuff. It's simply part of their tradition. So again, we don't expect a successful passage this year, but the important thing is for us to bring it before legislators. There are many who do strongly support this, and we want to spread out, hopefully, of course, to legislators who are undecided. And certainly persistent help over the years for bills by Quaker Voice has been successful in the past, particularly with respect to voting rights for persons who have been released from prison. Okay, the second bill is earned release time. And You may know that the opportunity for earning release time while in prison is rather limited in Washington State. And we would like to extend that, and for such things as educational programs, training programs that persons in prison participate in, it would be an opportunity to give earned release credits for that. And in fact, that means that that would be a motivation, an incentive for persons in prison to actually participate in these programs. And they would, of course, help with reentry and making their way after release. So it actually helps public safety as well as it would help the persons who are in prison. This bill would substantially increase to 33% the potential release credits that an individual could accrue. And so that in principle, if a person is given a sentence of, say, 9 years, that they would be able to get up to 3 years taken off of that for these programs. Unfortunately, the substitute bill, which is the one which has just passed its policy committee, does not include retroactivity. It is proactive. Specifically, it would apply only to persons whose sentence is given after July 1st of this year. And that means that it would not apply to persons who are currently in prison. And as you can imagine, Quaker Voice would like it to be stronger and include the retroactive part. But we understand that is often the case, that bills are proposed without retroactivity their first year, get passed, and then in subsequent years, there's the effort to include retroactivity in them. And that is simply a way to get things done. So I certainly am supportive of doing this, get as much as we can this year, and then get more later on. And the third bill has to do with solitary confinement. This bill is in House Appropriations now. Representative Ormsby is the chair of that committee, and who is actually quite supportive of it, but there's a problem with money. And this is the Appropriations Committee, and that's exactly what they consider. And we'll see a bit more about that as I go on here. For background, the Department of Corrections ended its use of solitary confinement for disciplinary purposes 3 years ago. And what this bill would do would first confirm that change into law, so it wouldn't just be at the decision of a particular head of the Department of Corrections, and it would end involuntary solitary confinement, except for medical reasons or because of physical danger to the individual or to others. Quakers have long been opposed to solitary confinement, despite a rather curious history if you go back 150 years or whatever, but have been opposed because it is dehumanizing, harmful to mental health, and certainly hearing the testimony of people who have actually experienced it, sometimes for many years, that is what one hears. And basically the DOC, the Department of Corrections, realizes that. They plan to reduce solitary confinement by 90% in the next 5 years, according to their plan. However, it seems unclear exactly how that is to be done. One idea is to follow the Norwegian plan. In fact, several legislators went to Norway last summer, I think it was, to see how things are done there. And the idea is to have trained professionals who train persons who are on the staff who work individually with prisoners who might otherwise be in solitary confinement with the effort to, by working together, to be able to help resolve or lessen some of the problems that such persons have. Another idea that the DOC seems to be considering is to have simply larger spaces, which means new construction to create these spaces where persons who would otherwise be in small units of solitary confinement might be. Just how that works, we don't know. And in any event, it costs money. And of course, close supervision by people who are tracking each individual costs money as well. So that's one of the problems with getting this passed. Although the Department of Corrections is in favor of doing something, the union for the officers, that is the guards, is strongly opposed to all this. So they're in disagreement with the Department of Corrections, and I guess both are in some sense disagreement with groups like ours who are pushing it, who would like to push this forward. And I think I neglected to mention on the first one, traffic safety for all is now in the House Rules Committee, which is the committee that decides what actually goes to the floor of that body for a vote. And if you want to contact people, that would be Speaker Jenkins or Majority Leader Fitzgibbon, both on that committee. The speaker chairs it, and they would be the ones who would be most likely to make decisions to get it onto the floor. With that, I would like to see if there are any questions here.
Sam, do you want to thank you for unsharing the screen.
Right,
I'd like to see everybody
Sure, yeah.
better. Great.
Bill. And you're still muted.
You need to unmute, Bill.
Sorry
You got
about
it.
that.
Yeah.
Sam, could you give a couple of examples of the programs that are currently going on in the earned release time? And what programs might happen in the future?
Right. I mean, they're training for a number of different skills, and I don't know too much details about just which ones, but there's certainly construction work and various other things of that sort. There would be general education programs, and at times there is higher education that's included with that, work toward a GED as well, this sort of thing. So that's what we're thinking of here.
Okay, thank you.
Well. But there are programs that help with reentry. And so there are certainly ones that help both the prisoners, and helping people with reentry is helping people on the outside as well. Louise.
Yeah, so I'm curious about why the union is strongly opposed to the solitary confinement issue changes.
Right. The arguments they give, at least in testimony, and what I've heard, is that they're concerned for their own safety, that the persons who go into solitary are often considered to be dangerous, and they feel that they might be attacked if these people are not in solitary confinement.
Thank you.
Any others? Okay, thank you. Back to Susan.
All right. Thank you, Sam. And Renee has joined us now. Renee, are you ready to talk about the environmental stewardship?
Yeah, and
bills? This group had a lot of success last year in getting things through, and they have a couple of brand new bills to describe to us, along with one that we continue to need to keep pushing. Go ahead, Renee.
And is it helpful to people if we share screen with that, with the list? And if so, Susan, could you do that?
Yes, I can put that sheet up that
Okay.
that Sam just put up. I
Gabby
will do
just,
that, but you should start walking,
Right.
not walking,
Yep.
talking while I do that.
right. Gabby, just put the link in the chat so anybody can copy that down so you've got it too. Our group has 3 priority bills, and we like the range of them. Right to repair continues. That one you've heard about for 2 years, I think now. And it made progress last year, but this year there's a better chance of it getting through. So I'll tell you the 3 of them first. The second is the REWRAP Act. This concerns packaging, plastic and paper packaging. Plastic and paper packaging that show up at your house that you don't know what to do with. And it is giving the producers responsibility for that packaging for its lifetime. I'll talk more about each of these. And the third one is community solar. Individuals can get solar panels on their roofs if they manage and if their roofs qualify, but not everybody can. So community solar provides a way of people working together to get larger solar projects and get the benefits of having solar, and also increases the solar in the state. So we like the range of those being, they're varied and they're different. 2 of them we've worked with sort of last year, right to repair, and then last year we got the plastics bill passed. That was the start of plastics control in Washington. But the new plastics bill has been considerably rewritten, and we're following up on that. But let's start with right to repair now that you've got that there. It's 1933. We'll get down to it. There it is, 1933. It also has now a companion in the Senate. This is urging, I'll say it all since you may not remember it from last year. Right now, you usually have to take your computers and smartphones and other equipment to an authorized dealer to get them repaired. Right to Repair says that we have the right to get our equipment repaired with small service providers, and also that they have the right to get information so that they can repair them, and that they have to be able to open those devices. Right now, large manufacturers are creating ways to lock your computers and your phones and the like so that you can't even get into them. The repair shop can't get into them. Ian Stanfield, who is the champion for this bill, had great examples in that he's on a borrowed computer because his computer is off for repairs and he can't get it fixed easily, since he can't just take it in and they can't open it up. His cell phone also just needs a battery replaced. Used to be 7 years ago, he could take it in and slip out the old battery, buy a new one, put it in, he was set to go. But now it's made so that he can't even open the cell phone to change the battery, nor can small repair shops. This will also help underserved communities, since they often have small businesses there who'd like to have this information so that they can do the repairs. It's an environmental concern in that people tend to trash their electronic equipment instead of repairing it when repairs take so long and are so expensive. This year it's been rewritten. It was including farm equipment. That may not make it all the way through. A lot of the rural areas, the eastern areas of Washington would really like that because farmers need to be able to repair their equipment. But there's also pushback on that. And it's not including most medical repairs, although there's a separate bill going forward related to that. So I'm going to go to the REWRAP Act. That's House Bill 2049, Senate Bill 6005. It was the RAP Act last year, and now it's been rewritten and kind of divided up into three sections. We're championing the RERAP Act. By the way, Zero Waste Washington has the RERAP Act as their top priority and right to repair as one of their second level priorities. If you don't know already, plastic is a huge environmental hazard. It never goes away. It just breaks down and becomes smaller and smaller and gets in your bodies. You've probably heard the news about it being in all bottled water and in something like 90% of the food they tested in the supermarkets. And it causes a lot of healthcare costs and damage. The thing that has proven to be effective worldwide for controlling this plastic waste is producer responsibility laws. So that's what we have here. It will require the producers to come together. Anybody who sells something that is wrapped in plastic or paper in Washington will have to form a group, and that group has to figure out what to do with their stuff. It has to be recycled, collected, something. Right now, it's your problem. If you buy something that has paper or plastic wrapped, you buy something, you don't even know what it's going to come wrapped in, and then you have to figure out what to do with it. That isn't fair. You didn't make it. So the people who make this stuff have to figure out what we do with it. It would also require that any communities that have curbside garbage pickup would also have to have curbside recycling pickup. And these coalitions of producers have to fund the recycling and collection of these things. There is a separate bottle refund bill, so this doesn't cover plastic, metal, glass, other bottles. This is just the wrapping stuff. And I'm sure you know, anything you buy seems to be wrapped in plastic these days. The better companies are putting paper to protect it, but not all do. The bottle bill is a secondary concern of ours, but it's not one of the priorities. And it might have some problems. The last one is community solar, House Bill 2253, Senate Bill 6113. And I already said people can't get solar if they don't own a roof, if their roof has too much shading, if they're renters. So this would let more people get solar. 24 states have this already. We had it in Minnesota when I lived there. I was shocked when I came here that I couldn't buy into community solar. Because, we're so far ahead on everything in Washington, but not on this. We also need more solar in the state in order to take advantage of the Inflation Reduction Act funds. So you can invest in community solar in group form and gives you all these benefits. So it's both economic and an environmental issue. This bill also gives tribal-owned projects some limitations are removed from their projects. And I've seen myself that the tribal projects are really important for justice and independent energy production reasons. So that one we're really hoping to get through. Apparently, all of the energy people hate it, so we may have a push, but it's, I don't know, it's this isn't the first place. We'd be like the 25th. You'd think we could do that. So questions, comments, and you can unshare, Susan. Thank you. I think. What do you all think? Yes, Jonathan.
So who's in opposition on the community solar? Is that the utilities?
Yeah, both public and private, apparently.
Okay.
But it might be that there's some little bits of language that can be changed to, get them over.
Okay, and you mentioned that the tribal projects would have some restrictions reduced.
Yes, and that's all I know, but
Okay. Do you know whether the tribes have commented on that?
I don't. And our champions are not here today. I hope they have.
Okay.
And there is
Thanks.
a coalition that we're working on joining.
Uh,
So I think we'll be hearing from that coalition more soon.
yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
Well, Jonathan, do you know whether the tribes have commented on it?
I do not. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to work some contacts, but they're pretty busy. They're not too busy to talk to me at this point.
Yeah.
We can ask our lobbyists to see if they can track some of that down. Good question.
Anybody else? If you don't have any questions, you can at least tell me if you think we did a good job picking priorities. Okay, that helps.
Yeah.
Jonathan,
Jonathan has another
Yeah.
question.
Sorry, I just wondered where these bills are in the process.
yeah, right to okay. This is part of
You're
my
going to get an action alert within
Yes.
hours on right to repair.
yeah.
Go ahead, Renee.
I think right to repair is in its hearings. I'm going to get to that screen. I was working
So I
on
can actually
getting
fill you
my
in on this. It's in House Consumer Protection and Business Committee. It has had a hearing. And the reason I know this is because one of my representatives is actually the chair of that committee, and she seems to be holding it up. So the action alert you're just about to get, and it's going to go out to all of our Quaker Voice folks, is write to this committee and tell them to go ahead and vote for it and send it on into the rest of the House process. That one's right to repair, and Dave Godfrey and I are meeting with her because Dave used to work for her. We're going to make a really strong case on Thursday for getting this thing moving, but it's stuck in House Consumer Protection and Business Committee.
They do have an executive session scheduled for the 17th. And by the way, I do now have the Senate bill number is 6276. And the REWRAP Act is it's in Senate Environment, Energy, and Technology on January 23rd at 1:30. And it has an executive session in the House Environment and Energy on the 18th. Community Solar has a hearing on January 16th. Is that passed? Yes. And it had a hearing January 16th and January 19th in the Senate. So I have to check and see what happened in those. Jacob Squirrel, the advocate who's paired with our working group, is really good on keeping up on these, but I'm not always good on getting all my emails read. So I think he's probably told me what happened those days.
Any other questions? Because I have one for some of the experienced Quaker Voice lobbyists that we have on this call, since we have a few extra minutes here. We've got some people here who are brand new, who have not gone out and done visits with their state legislators before. And even folks who've done FCNL lobbying. It's a little different experience because our federal legislators give us more time and we always just have one issue that we're lobbying on. So what do we have any advice from our experienced Quaker Voice citizen lobbyists here on how to handle 15 minutes and 9 priority bills in whether you're meeting with your legislators face to face or on Zoom?
Well, I guess I might just say that don't try to do all 9, but see in your delegation who has a personal story, who has something to really say about some issues, and choose those and let those people talk.
And one of the tools that we gave you in this priority sheet is the reason we have the list of all the sponsors there is because it's really easy to go through and just recognize the names of the people that you're meeting with. and circle them so that you are aware when you go into this 15-minute meeting. You can say, thank you for co-sponsoring or sponsoring one of these bills, or you also know if they're not listed on any of them whatsoever. But Diane Pasta had some advice too. Diane.
I think you probably said it. I think the first way that I start is thank you for the things that you have supported, some kind of an affirmation. And I end with, what are your concerns that we might be able to support? That ended up in the previous session with a tie-in, Representative Gregerson with the Economic Justice Group. I believe they started working on some bills because I asked and then made that connection. So that those two pieces are important.
Yeah, the thanks is really wonderful because we're really building relationships with these folks. But I also want to stress the other point that Diane made, which is really ask them, do you have concerns about any of these bills? Because that way we learn as citizen lobbyists, and that helps the working groups to shape all kinds of responses. It's really important for us to listen. That's a really nice Quaker opportunity for listening. Okay, we got a whole list of folks out there that want to add things on this. I think Celestin was first.
Yeah, mine is it's just an obvious thing. I want to say all three friends that have spoken speak my mind. And one is, addressing certain bills, but really finding out what the representatives' concerns are. But the other thing, it's sort of obvious, but just make sure that you get the list that we have of priority bills to them, because my representatives all appeal that. So even if you can't speak about all of the measures, they have that list, and they've appreciated that. So just make sure that your group has gotten the list to them.
Yeah, our district leads are mostly working on that. They have to make sure that the legislative assistants get copied too, but they probably can't get the list too many times. Okay, Gabby, I think actually was at the head of the list.
I didn't expect that, but I wanted to remind people that after your legislative visit, if you can go to the website and somebody in your group, if you're in a group, fill out the legislative visit report, which is under take action, so that the heads of the committees and the clerk get a copy of what was said, and that gives an idea of what was covered and what was needed. And even if you go by yourself at a time other than Quaker Lobby Day, it doesn't hurt to fill that out so that people get it and know what's happened. Thanks.
Yeah, and just so you know, this does not put your report on the website.
Right.
It puts it into a database that only the board and our lobbyists have access to, but they can then aggregate that information. And then we also have a sharing session on Friday afternoon to report back on the things that you learned. So Renee,
I just
what
wanted to
advice
make
do you have?
a plug for a bill that we've been asked to support. Diane said, at the end, ask what they'd like us to support. And one thing we've been asked to support as a secondary bill is electric school buses, because that could help so much in getting rid of these, in defeating the Anti-Climate Commitment Act initiative that's going to go on the ballot in the fall. And we don't have enough people on our working group for somebody to pay attention to that bill. And I do think it would be really important if we want to support the Climate Commitment Act. So if you know of anybody who could follow that one, it would be really helpful to us.
You're going to be hearing more about those initiatives. We're going to do some briefing on it on Thursday morning, because they're what we really need to be working on in the fall on the ballot. Very unusual opportunity, but to address a real threat. So we have something from the library at UFM. Who would like to speak from there?
That was me, and all of my issues have been addressed by other speakers, so thank you.
Well, thank you, Merlin. Tom, one of our experienced FCNL lobbyists. Oh, you need to unmute, Tom.
There we go.
Yeah, there
All
we
right.
go.
Sorry about that. No, just in terms of what I've learned over the years is just to remember that it's about relationships and long term. At least three of the bills that were just previewed, the people said, the clerk of the working group said, we don't expect this to pass this year because we're doing this over many years. For instance, LFOs in the criminal justice. Well, that took us about 12 years, right, Sam?
Yeah.
And
Unpack
finally got it through.
LFOs for us. It's an
Mhm.
acronym.
Oh, I'm sorry. The legal financial obligations,
Thank you.
reducing the financial burden on uh, those who are incarcerated. We got that passed a few years ago after many years of working on it.
Mhm.
Um, and one of the legislators I'm meeting with, it's important to remember that you're also building a relationship with the staff. One of my legislators, um, his staff person was the staff person for the representative before that preceded him. So that relationship with the staff member is even longer than the one with the actual legislator. Something else to remember is that we have new Quaker Voice um, lobbyists this year, and our reps may already have, or the staff people may have already had relationships with Lonnie and Noah. Well, now is a chance to introduce them to Paul and Jacob. And whenever I write my thank you note at the end of the day after the visit, I say thanks for meeting with us and appreciate all your good work. And if you have any questions about any of this legislation, please call Quaker Voice, and I give them Paul's and Jacob's email address, and so they connect them. And if that legislator is on a key committee, then they'll probably be getting contacted.
And you may find a lot of people out there who know Paul already, but not in relationship to Quaker Voice. So it's a nice reintroduction. Right. Jonathan.
Yeah, thanks. It may happen when you're meeting with the legislator that they may mention some counter arguments to what we're presenting. One interesting example is I found a paper on the unintended consequences of right to repair bills, which you probably have not heard of because it was published in an economics journal, but that is my background. Mm-hmm. And from an theoretical economics point of view, it actually makes a lot of sense. So if you get a comeback like that saying, oh, thank you, I had not heard of that, I will take that back and we'll consider it. And then please give it, if you get anything like that in economics, please give it to me. I will be glad to take a look at it.
Thank you. What an offer. A resident economist to sort through all that for us. Let me add one thing from last year's experience about asking for what are you supporting and is there anything else you think should be on our list? We do have the capacity to put things onto support lists. And if they have cross-cutting equity implications, we can even kind of do that at board level, even if they don't fit into a working group. We did have a few suggestions that the working groups just said, no, this isn't anywhere in Quaker Voice scope. It doesn't connect to our testimony. So we may say no to some of them, but it's really nice to get the suggestions, and we do have capacity to respond to those, and then they make the new connections, as Diane was talking about. So if there aren't any other questions for the full group, then I think that we could call the main part of this meeting, could adjourn that, although we want to actually share some silence together in preparation for the lobbying. But I will be glad to stay for a few minutes in case there are people who are new to Quaker Voice, if you have any general Quaker Voice questions that you want. But let's settle into worship together, carrying what we've learned and knowing that we're carrying it into some very important places on Thursday and other times this week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you. I know at various times. This is kind of a group that has a lot of people that probably can't come on Thursday morning, but we will hope to see you then maybe on Friday afternoon for the Share What We Learned session. And thank you all for being here today, including Gabby. Thank you for your support. We can probably stop. I don't know whether you've stopped recording yet, but we can probably stop now.